Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. As Canada's federal election creeps nearer and nearer, I've been thinking about an issue that manifests right around this time. A lot of Canadians feel that their votes don't count toward anything and end up withholding their vote or spoiling their vote. And I'm sure you've had the same sentiment or currently share it, that the polls are locked, my riding is predetermined, like what is one vote actually going to do? And I've felt these same frustrations and faced these same questions before, but I've been especially frustrated when people urge me to vote without actually telling me why it matters or the difference it actually makes. So after digging into the issue, I'm convinced that most people withhold their vote not because they genuinely think it's the best way to communicate their values, but because they have an honest misunderstanding of Canada's government structure. My premise is this: your vote is not about choosing the Prime Minister directly, it's about equipping your riding to influence the federal government, whether or not your local member of parliament wins or loses. If a Liberal government forms and you vote Conservative locally, the victory of that Conservative member of parliament will provide resistance in the House of Commons, and the loss of that Conservative member of parliament will at least signal dissent. Not voting silences that entirely. Now, I'll explain this concept more thoroughly in this video, and I'll also rely heavily and quote heavily from this book, The Canadian Regime. It does a great job of actually demonstrating how Canada's system of government works and makes your vote significant. Now, one quick note, I'm not debating in this video the belief or fact, depending on who you ask, that Canada's elections are rigged and interfered with from foreign powers. What I'm trying to say is that this video is not for the politically skeptical or cynical. It's information about how Canada's government system works and how your vote actually counts. That being said, let's begin. So the case I'm making begins with the understanding that Canada's system of government is not a direct democracy where every citizen votes on every single law. The Canadian regime sums this up very plainly. The Canadian regime is not a direct democracy, but a representative democracy. This means that the central democratic mechanism of our regime is elections. So in Canada, you elect a member of parliament from one of Canada's ridings, not the Prime Minister directly. Those members of parliament that you vote for form the House of Commons. And the House of Commons is Canada's backbone for government accountability. Now, this often gets confused and again is stated very plainly in the book. It says, Canadians are often confused about the representative role of an MP. Some will tell you that they vote for the party or perhaps the party leader, while others claim to vote based on the personal qualities of their local candidates. Still, consideration of the logic of responsible government will allow us to draw some general inferences about how our representatives represent us. So the key lies in responsible government, where the Prime Minister and the Cabinet must answer to the House of Commons. To quote further, it says, in responsible government, the regime obtains its democratic legitimacy by virtue of the fact that those who exercise political authority are in some way accountable to the citizens who form the electorate. Our members of parliament are directly accountable to us in that they must be periodically re-elected in order to remain in office. The Prime Minister and Cabinet are indirectly accountable to us in that they must always maintain the confidence of the House of Commons, which we have elected directly. Elections to the House of Commons thus constitute the democratic linchpin of the regime because they ensure that those who make political decisions will in some sense represent the will or interests of the electorate. So confidence is critical, and if it's lost, like through a budget vote, a throne speech, or a literal vote of non-confidence, then the government falls. The Canadian regime enforces this even further, and it says the Prime Minister must resign if her or his government has lost the confidence of the House of Commons and has no prospect of winning the confidence of a newly elected House. Your vote determines who sits in that House, directly shaping its ability to support or restrain the federal government. So how exactly does your vote translate into influence? Let's imagine your vote as a signal of resistance first. If your member of parliament comes from an opposing party and wins, they actively counter the government. In Calgary Centre in 2021, Conservative Greg McLean defeated Liberal Sabrina Grover, by only 3,000 votes. Now, should Liberals hold power, Maclean's presence in the House of Commons is actively challenging that policy directly. And your vote may have made that possible. Second, let's imagine your vote as a signal of dissent. Even if your preferred member of parliament loses, your vote still signifies opposition. So in Toronto, St. Paul that same year, Liberals secured 49% of the vote, but Conservatives earned 27% of the vote, over 14,000 votes, indicating that there is a significant group of people in that riding that oppose the Liberal candidate. The Canadian regime ties this to party dynamics. It says, we know that responsible government turns out, in practice, to be government by a cabinet that is accountable to the House of Commons. Because the cabinet is not elected directly by the voters, it is important that we elect the House of Commons in such a way as to draw the strongest link possible between the voters and the cabinet. This means that our representation must, for the most part, be party representation, for parties establish the link between the voter and the cabinet. So your vote, win or lose, defines the House's composition and its stance. And lastly, let's imagine your vote as a signal of influence, since smaller parties or independents can alter the equation. In 2019, the NDP's 24 seats compelled Justin Trudeau's minority government to negotiate a pharmacare commitment. A vote in Vancouver East, where the NDP won by over 10,000 votes, strengthened that leverage. Although the communication lines can seem convoluted and indirect, abstaining from voting shuts down any communication from citizen to federal government altogether. And this is not abstract, it's borne out in Canada's history. So for example, in 2008, Stephen Harper's Conservatives held 143 seats, less than necessary to form a majority government. And a coalition of Liberal, NDP, and Bloc Québécois nearly ousted him over a budget dispute. The Liberal win in Kitchener by 1,800 votes helped bolster that effort, and Harper only survived by suspending Parliament. In 1926, the Liberals won 116 seats, to the Conservatives 91 seats, but Prime Minister King lost the House's confidence, allowing Mien to briefly govern. And local votes drove that change. So consider 2025. If the Liberals win 150 seats, Conservatives 140, NDP 40, and Bloc 13, then a NDP Bloc coalition could topple the Liberal federal government. Your vote in Hamilton Centre, for example, where the NDP won by over 5,000 votes in 2021, might determine that outcome. And close races underscore this even further. Races can be won by as little as 100 votes. As well, Canada has a kind of constitutional safeguard to ensure some degree of government responsibility. To quote the book, it says, "A reserve power of the Governor General is the power to dismiss a Prime Minister who attempts to govern without the confidence of the House of Commons." This power has never been used at the federal level and has not been used by a lieutenant governor at the provincial level since the beginning of the 20th century. Still, the power does exist and is essential to the proper functioning of responsible cabinet from clinging to office when, under the rules of responsible government, they are supposed to resign or ask for elections. The fact that this reserve power is used so infrequently is more a proof of its efficacy than its irrelevance. So should a prime minister overstay without support, your member of parliament's vote could invoke that rare authority. What all of this reveals is that Canada's responsible government framework gives your vote some tangible weight. It places a member of parliament in the House of Commons to resist or endorse the federal government, all within a government structure that hinges on confidence. The only legitimate prime minister in our regime is the person who commands the confidence of the House of Commons. Choosing not to vote entirely deprives the government of any insight. And imagine trying to govern a country without actually knowing what the citizens want or value. Finally, I hope this video, at best, helps you to see the value of your vote, and at worst, inspires you to do some research and see for yourself the way in which your vote signals and amplifies your values to the federal government. Well, that's it for this video. I want to say thank you for watching, have an outstanding day, and take care.